Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new webinar made by the Ringover team, which is called Unlock the Power of the Ringover API. So just before we start the webinar, just gonna wait so more people can join us. While we're waiting, I'm going to show you our super page where you can find articles and videos that can help you to better understand how to use the Ringover solution. Just click on any feature and then you're gonna have the articles that are related to that theme. You also have access to the best webinars that we did. So you have the new web app webinar, the first steps with Ringover, the Ringover statistics, and just let me switch language. So you also have how to choose the best integration for your business, and you have the list of the next webinars. So feel free to take a look and register to our next webinars as well. Um, gonna show you as well the self-learning page, which is ringover.com/first steps with Ringover. So here, if you're a user, an admin, or a supervisor, you're gonna find a training path that will help you to, once again, better understand how to use the Ringover solution according to your profile. Okay, so let's start the presentation. So welcome once again to this webinar. Today we're gonna see how to better use the Ringover API so you can integrate with your homemade tools. So let's take a look at our first slide. So what is an API? So basically, an API is an application programming interface. So is a set of rules that enables different applications to communicate with each other. So to better understand the API, you just need to see the API has a bridge. So it's going to be a bridge that is going to exchange information between a server and a client. I just saw that we have a question, so I'm going to be answering all of your questions by the end of the webinar. Um, so an API is going to be a code structure that is going to help the server to send information to the client. So when we're talking in technical language, the server is going to be the database that will stock data, that will send data to the client. So the client can be, for instance, a browser. So if you're using Google Chrome, then Google Chrome is going to be the client. If you're using a mobile app, then the mobile app is going to be the client. So when we're in technical language, speak of a server and a client, we're talking about a database and a browser, for instance, that is going to receive data from the database. So the API is going to act as a bridge between the database and the browser. So the database is going to send data to the browser, or the browser is going to send data to the database. And they need the API, they need this code structure in order to exchange data. So the API is just a moderator, a bridge that is going to help this information, this data to be sent once from the database to the browser or from the browser to the database. So an API works with requests. So for instance, you as a client, as Ringover client, when you want to talk to our support team, you will not reach the support team directly. You're going to create a ticket, and then the support team is going to take a look at the ticket and then give you an answer. So a database works kind of in the same way. So you're gonna have the browser that is going to send a request to the database using the API, and then the database is going to give an answer with the data. So for instance, the client will send a GET request. So GET means I need data, so send me data. or you can send a delete request, which will delete the data in the database, or you can also send a post request, which will create new data in the database, and but and batch request. So but request will update the old data with new one, and the batch request will only partially update the data in the server, in the database. So how does that work? Let's say you're using a website, so you click on a button. For instance, you're using the Ringover web app, and then you're going to send a text message. When you click on the button send, what you're doing is that you're sending a post request to the database saying, hey, I need to send this SMS. Can you stock this SMS into the database, please? And then the database is going to give you an answer, which in technical language will be most certainly 200 answer, for instance, which is okay, I can stock this new SMS, this new data into the database. So every time you click on a button on a website, you're just sending a request to the database using the API as a bridge. And just one important information regarding these API requests is that you need to trigger that request. So you need to click on a button in order to send the request. The request is not going to send, it's not going to be sent by itself. So this is when we're talking about API requests. But we also have another type of request, which is called a webhook. So a webhook is basically a request that can be sent automatically. So for instance, if a developer specified on the code that every Wednesday at 9 p.m., the webhook is going to activate itself and send data, then the webhook is going to send data. Or it can be an event. So for instance, here in Ringover, you can create a webhook that will watch new calls. So every time you get a new call that is an event, that is going to trigger the request, so the webhook to send data. So the webhook is kind of like a request, but it is a request that is going to be sent automatically. So you don't need to trigger it because an event such as a Ringover call is going to trigger the webhook. So we're going to see in the demonstration some practical examples of how that works. So when we're talking about API, we need to also talk about the API technical documentation, which is a public documentation that will help you, that will guide you on how to use the API. So here at Ringover, we also have a technical documentation that is accessible, that is public, so you can have access to it and read it and understand how to use the Ringover API. So we also are going to look we're also going to take a look at the Ringover technical documentation. So let's go to the demo time. Just going to show you my screen. So, okay. So here, first of all, when you try to have access to the Ringover API, you will need an API key because you need authorization in order to have access to the Ringover API. So you just go to the developer section, API, and then you're going to find the possibility to create a new API key. So just click here, specify the user, and then put a label and create your API key. So here, my API key already exists. So I'm just going to add it. So when you click here, you can see that you have rights. So these are all the rights that your user can do using the Ringover API. So what can your user do? Is it going to be only monitoring the information from the API? Is the user going to be watching information from calls, contacts, users, numbers, IVRs, conversations, and in Power? So when we're talking in technical language, we're also gonna talk about read, write, or write. So what is the difference between read and write? If I only activate read, that means that I can only see information. I can only get information. So I will certainly use the get request, for instance, to get information from calls. However, if I have the right, I can also create information. So I can, for instance, send a post request to create and change the data using the API. So these are the two differences that you can have. So read or write. Um, okay, it seems like I had just a small problem with my connection. Nuhela, just tell me uh, if you're not hearing me. Gonna continue with the presentation. So here is where you're gonna create your API key. With the API key, you can go to the technical documentation. So if you go to the links tab here in Livestorm, just go to the links tab and you're going to have access to the developer technical documentation, which is developer.ringover.com. So that's the link. So once you're here in the technical documentation, you can download it to implement it to implement it so you can use it in another tool. You have an explanation on the authorization. So you're gonna need an API key to have access to the API. So you have that explanation here. And you can paginate inside the developer documentation. So for instance, if you're looking for a request regarding the tags, so you can just click here and you're going to see all of the requests regarding the tags. So for instance, you can get all of the tags for your team, or you can create a new tag, get a specific tag. When we're talking about contacts, for instance, you can get contacts, you can get a specific contact. Um, so these are all the requests that you can have using the Ringover API. So all that you can do, you can see it directly here. So if an action is not here in the technical documentation, that means that you're not able to do it. So for instance, if I go to numbers, I can see that I can get all numbers from my team or get a specific number, but I cannot create a new number. So that is because you cannot create a new number using the API. You need to go through the Ringover dashboard in order to create a new number. So that is something that you cannot do using the Ringover API. So everything that is present here, you can do. If it's not here, then you cannot do it using the API. These are the responses that you're gonna get. So if your request is okay, then you're gonna get a 200 response. If it's not okay, so if you're not authorized, then you're gonna get a 401 answer. So token unauthorized. Here we're talking about token, but pay attention that when you're sending a request to the Ringover API, you need an API key. So it's just information that you need to have in mind. So it's an API key in order to have authorization. Or you can have an internal server error, which is going to be a 500. So I just show you some of the requests, and I'm gonna share my screen again because I wanted to show you how does that look like when you're using the Ringover API. So I'm gonna share my whole screen. And here, as you can see, I'm using a tool so I can manipulate the Ringover API. So as you can see, I implemented all of the technical documentation directly in this tool. So I have access to the request. I don't need to write the request every time. I have all of the requests here. As you can see, I have a request to get all of the calls. I just send it. The answer is okay. So I get all of the information from the Ringover calls. As you can see, if I don't respect the request, then it's not going to work because I added a new letter here. So it's not going to work. But if I respect the request, then it's working okay. I already put my API key, so that's why I'm getting an answer. For instance, I can send a text message. So once again, I respect the information that was present in the technical documentation. I just put my Ringover number, the number that should receive the SMS, and then the SMS text. So I can change, for instance, the content. I can put hi, and I'm gonna send it, and it's a 200 answer, which means it's okay. So I just send this SMS to someone. So this is how you can use the API from another tool or using an internal CRM. For instance, if you have an integration that does not exist in our marketplace, you can use the Ringover API to have access to all of these actions from the Ringover API. Uh, So I have a question from Christian. Hi, Marcos. What tool do you use to access the API? So you have a lot of tools that can help you to have access to the API. In this case, I was using Postman. So it's written like this. So Postman, you can go to postman.com/downloads and download it. And this is how the tool is going to, just going to share my screen. Okay, so I was not sharing my screen. So, okay, I guess now you can see. So this is Postman. So it's just postman.com/downloads. This is a very known tool used by developers to check their requests. So if you ever want to, if you don't have a tech team and you want to see how to manipulate the API from another tool, then you can download it and use it. So it's postman.com. And then when you download this tool, you can also download the Ringover tech documentation. So just click here, download the documentation, and you can implement the documentation here using this tool. So this is just one of the tools that you can use to have access to the Ringover API. And of course, you can also have access to the Ringover API if you have a tech team. You can also write lines of code so you can have access to the API using a code structure. Okay, so I just showed you the API, and I also wanted to show you how to use a webhook. So once again, a webhook, you're going to find all the information that you need here. Okay, so these are all the events that you can find when we're talking about webhooks in the Ringover solution. So you can have, for instance, a message event. So every time the event is triggered when a message is sent. You can have, for instance, the call ringing. So every time your call is going to, your phone is going to ring, then the event is going to trigger the webhook, and the webhook is going to send information to another tool or to a CRM called hang up. So every time you hang up, all the information from that call is going to be sent as well. So as you can see here, you're going to have information on the event, the call ID, the duration, and you can also have access to the record. So for instance, if you want to receive all the information, every time you finish a call, you want to receive all the information from that call to your CRM. For instance, if you have an internal CRM, then you can activate this webhook, which is called hung up event, and send this information to your internal CRM. So to activate the webhook, you need to first create your webhook, so your webhook link. So once again, I'm just going to show you a no-code tool that you can use, but that's just one of the tools that you can use. So this tool is called Make. So this is a tool that you can use to manage your webhooks. So this tool already have an integration with Ringover. So if you click here, just gonna create a new scenario so I can show you. But when you create a new scenario, These are the tools that are integrated with Make, and you can search for Ringover. You can see all of the actions, so you can watch after call, a new SMS, watch WhatsApp event. So for instance, if you click on new call, then every new call is going to be watched by this webhook. So just choose a hook, and it's gonna go to my scenario that already exists. So you're gonna have access to the webhook here. So just copy the webhook, and then you go to the webhook section where you can pick the action, so the event that you're looking for. So for instance, call ringing, call answered, call ended, missed call. So every time you miss a call, then the webhook will activate and send the information. You also have voicemail, SMS received. So for instance, if you just copy paste the webhook here, for instance, for call ringing, every time the call is going to ring, the webhook will activate itself. So just let me take a look. I'm gonna try to run this. So if someone calls the ringover number, then we get data. So that's what just happened. So someone called the ringover number, so I got the data. And the second action was to send the data to another tool. So this could be your internal CRM. So imagine that this Google document is your internal CRM. So I just got the information that I received a call. So my webhook activated itself, and this information was sent to the Google document that I integrated with. So if I take a look, you can see that I connected with my Google account, my Google Drive, and a document that I just named Make Test. And these are all the information that I'm getting from the webhook and sending to the Google document. So if I try to take a look at my document, then you can see that I have the information here. So the call was ringing, the data ID from number to number. But once again, you can personalize the information. You can decide which information you're sending and which information you're receiving on the other end. So once again, this is just one of the tools that exist that can help you to manage webhooks. But if you have a technical team, then you can use also webhooks to integrate with another CRM, a CRM that, for instance, does not exist in our marketplace. So you can use the API and the webhooks to do all of this data exchange. So when we're talking about API and webhooks, we're basically talking about data exchange. And of course, you need an API key to authorize yourself to have access to the Ringover API. And of course, you're only going to have access to the information from your account. Okay, Christian, have a question. Okay, so Christian, we conduct several calls per week and would like to download the Ringover transcript on a case-by-case basis, upload to Open API, create a summary, input the AI summary into our CRM. So, well, first of all, we already have a solution that can do this because we have Empower, which is our AI tool. So using Empower, you can have access to the summary and also you can have access to the transcript of the conversation. So with Empower, if you have an integrated tool, you can also activate Empower. So the summary and the summary will be integrated to the CRM. So we already have this tool here, which is called Empower. So you can use Empower to do exactly what you're asking. But if you want to use the API, I don't have the answer right away, but we can try to take a look. And try to see if we can find something that could help you. So first of all, you're trying to send information from calls. So for instance, you could use the call hang up event that is going to send all the information every time you finish a call. So I feel like that's the solution for your problem. So every time you finish a call, you can activate this webhook, and this webhook is going to send all of this information. So the information that is going to be sent as well is the record. Maybe with the access to the record, then if you're using an AI solution, maybe the AI solution can read the record and do a transcript from the record. I don't know if that is possible, but that's something that you could try if you're looking for a webhook that is going to send all of this information in an automatic way. Let me know if that answers your question or if you have any other question, but I feel like this is what you're looking for. But the API and the webhooks, they can send a lot of information. So you need to study the documentation, take a look at what you have access to in terms of tools, and then see what you can do based on that. But in any way, you have access to Empower, which is our AI tool that already does what you're asking for. So we use Empower and have the integration to our CRM, but only the transcription link is input into the CRM, not the actual text. Okay, maybe that is a limitation to the if you already have the Empower integrated, maybe that is a limitation. So you need to click on the link to have access to the transcription. I'm gonna take a look, and if I find a solution for your problem, I'm gonna answer you by email, Christian. But if you already have Empower integrated, then yeah, that's the way to go. But I'm gonna take a look if you can have the text of the transcription integrated into the CRM. But I'm happy to know that you already use Empower. Um, I don't know if we have here in the documentation because I feel like when you're looking at the call hung up event, you don't have the transcript. All the information that you can receive is already here, so I don't see the transcript. I see the record, but not the transcript. So I'm not sure that this specific webhook will send the transcript. It will only send the record information. But I'll take a look and I'll answer you by email. Um, just gonna wait to see if you have any more questions, and I'm gonna show you once again our support page. So support.ringover.com. You have access to our articles and our past webinars, and also the next webinars that are coming, so you can register for the next webinars. This webinar was recorded. I'm sorry. So you're gonna receive the recording of the webinar by email. So if you have any doubts and want to take a look at the webinar again, you are going to receive a copy of the recording by email. And if you ever don't receive the email, just come here to the webinar page, and you're also in a few days you're going to find a link to this webinar also, so you can watch it. So thank you all for your participation. I hope that answers some of your questions. Feel free to join us if you have any questions. And for your specific question, Christian, I'm going to take a look and answer you by mail. So thank you. Have a good afternoon. Bye.